Brendan, come on out. Here. I'm Larry Powell. Welcome to my home. This is my partner here, Brendan, partner in crime today. Brendan's one of my wrestling students, and he's helped me with a couple other tapes. We're going to do 2 more here on Takedowns. At first, I'm just going to go over a couple concepts, and then we'll start in with some movements. So for right now, Brendan, go ahead and hop over here, and I'll just talk for just a second. Takedowns, extremely important area. A lot of emphasis is put on takedowns by many coaches. I don't emphasize takedowns quite as much as some coaches. I do a lot of emphasis on pinning and mat wrestling, but of course I don't want to have my guys fall behind on takedowns. So I like to coach guys to think in terms of trying to get the takedown. If we don't get the takedown, we're at least going to make the guy wrestle hard, and we want to stay even up with him. We don't want to give any takedowns. And so that's the philosophy that I have that's backing all of this up. I just think that when we're doing takedowns, there's a lot of different ways to approach it, and I want to simplify the takedowns, just like all the other wrestling that I try to do. I want to simplify it so that not only my good athletes can have opportunities for takedowns, but the majority of my team who are just average or maybe below average athletes are going to have opportunities for takedowns. So I want to explain just real quickly the style that I like to coach, and a few concepts, a few things to think about, and then we'll get into our movements, and then on beyond that we'll have our setup, our tie-ups, our setups. We'll get into a good leg attack on this tape, and then we'll finish up all kinds of other takedowns on the second tape. I feel that style-wise, I always want to try to be making my opponent react. I don't want him to be comfortable, so I want to be grabbing him first, if at all possible, and making him react. And that's the best way to make him react, is to get a hold of him. So we have a slogan, a saying, you got to touch him to take him. And what that does is, if I'm tying up with somebody, any kind of a touching is a tying up as far as I'm concerned, I can be one step away from getting a takedown, one step away from attacking. And I want to be able to cause that guy to be uncomfortable, take him out of his rhythm, to mess him up, as well as set myself up for my takedown. So that's my philosophy. Number 2, when I'm wrestling with a guy, I want to scout the guy. If we've never seen him, if we don't know anything about him before, and I'm wrestling, or my guys are wrestling a guy, I want the wrestler to be able to scout what is happening during that match and make some notes as they're going through the match, because they may see an opportunity that they missed early on in the match, and they might come back around 15 seconds later, or a minute later, or 2 periods later, and have an opportunity to cause the guy to do the same reaction, but this time they're set up for taking advantage of it. So this is just real important that we start being observant when we wrestle, and everybody can do that. Another thing that I want to have happen is I want, let's see, I'm going a little blank here. I've got a little outline over here. Brendan, what's my third thing there? Besides, oh, okay. Sometimes we've got situations where the guy will grab us even though we're trying to get out and be aggressive and grab him first and maneuver him first. But if he gets his position on us, then we've also got to have some skills on turning the tables right quick, so that we can bail out of what he's got us in and take advantage of what he's doing. A lot of times that'll be things like if he's grabbing our head, if he's putting his arms in a certain position, then we're going to try to turn the tables, and all of a sudden he's in trouble. So that's an important feature that we've got to have in our attack. Also, we want to make the guy tired. No matter what happens, whether we score, whether we don't score, whether he scores, we want to make him wrestle really hard when he's on his feet. Too many guys get a break when they're on their feet, and if they're not in good condition, they rest. they stall. We don't ever want to let a guy stall on his feet. So we're constantly working a man. And that brings up my fifth point here on style, and that is, I like to say we have a 5-second rule. No matter what we're doing on our setup, if I move into a tie-up, a particular tie-up, and I'm trying to work a setup out of that tie-up, if I go longer than 5 seconds, I'm making a mistake. I would like to get into the tie-up, do my setup, and attack within 2 to 3 seconds. 5 seconds is the total limit. If that happens, if we're still in there and nothing's happened, break out of that tie-up and move into something else and start all over again. That doesn't mean you break away from the person, but you change your position. You move to something else and start working on that. If you want to come back to where you were and take advantage of that later, fine. But do not stay in one position any longer than 5 seconds. We really like to see guys, as soon as they touch them, within 3 seconds, we like to see a setup and a shot. And so that's the way we feel about that. Okay, so that's the style that I like to wrestle. Within that, every kid, every student, every wrestler is going to be a little bit different. They're going to have their own idiosyncrasies. They're going to have their own physical attributes. They're going to have their own mental attributes, their own personality, whether they're sort of a passive person, whether they're an aggressive person. And so certain moves are going to favor their personalities and their physical attributes. So we try to pick and choose and guide guys into directions that they're set up to be successful in, and try to steer them away from areas that we think is going to be a little harder for them. So I'll be given a wide variety of things here that we try to do. Okay, getting into the stance. I don't go with the crowd on a lot of things, and one of the, I like to be different. I like my kids to be different. I believe very strongly in a squared stance, but it doesn't stay as, you might call it a shifting stance or a shifty stance. I believe that if I'm in a square stance with my feet, that I can attack either side. I believe that the opponent doesn't know which way I'm going to go as easily. I'm not limited on anything. And it's much safer for me, I believe, in terms of defense. Now, I don't like to think defense, but if I am being attacked, I would rather have a square stance to fight out of than a staggered stance to fight out of. Now, the shifty part comes when I move. I'm not just going to be standing still. I never stay in one position longer than a count of 1,001. I'm always moving a foot, moving in some direction, in some way, and we're going to cover that in just a second. So as I move, let's say I'm sliding. At any point that I slide, I can have a lead foot all of a sudden. If I'm sliding this way, that's going to be my lead foot. I can slide and step back, and I've got a lead foot. So I can have a lead foot very quickly out of this stance. And then some takedowns, I can just be simply squared, and because of what I'm going to do in the takedown, I'll be able to pull the person toward me or make him post so that I can just make a very nice step just from a squared stance. I don't have to have a foot in front in order to be able to do that. And I'll explain how that goes as we move along. So that's the way I feel about the type of stance that I would like to see with the feet. Now, I like to get guys to drop their rear and get their hands on their knees here, and get their shoulders up and get their head up. And the head is very important. Never show them the top of your head. Always keep your head up all the time in wrestling. And once we get down into this position, drop the elbows in, and they shouldn't be right next to the body. They should be out a little bit, in my opinion. But I like to have my hands where I can turn them all around. I've seen all different kinds of styles that people want to do, and I just want to be able to grab, because I might be grabbing across wrist, I might be grabbing down, I might be popping up. So my hands could be in any position here. And I don't necessarily have one hand in front of the other. I'm going to be able to do what I want to do, up or down. So I don't get tied into these level situations here. My elbows need to be out a little bit in order to work, but I try to always keep them pointed down unless I've got a hold of him in a certain way that it's safe for me to be able to point my elbow out and away or up. Okay, so I'm usually trying to point down toward the mat, keep my knees bent, and this brings into account the next point, and that is you can't wrestle this way for 6 minutes or most of a match with your knees bent like that unless you've got some good leg strength in terms of muscular endurance. So a good way to do this, to develop this, very simple, get a watch, bend your knees a little bit to start with, and start lowering yourself down throughout a 15-second range. And when you get to a 90-degree angle, then you stop and you start back up 15 seconds. Don't get up to the top all the way where your legs are locked. Always stop where they're bent a little bit. And then the next 15 seconds, go back down. Do a couple minutes of that. Just start that way. That'll start building up your endurance so that in the third period you can be wrestling with these bent knees. Then if that gets very easy for you, you could go like 3-4 minutes like that anytime, in your bedroom, wherever you want to do that. Then you can start overloading yourself. You can hold a bag of books or put something on your back or some weights or something and do the same thing. So you're really building up the endurance. You don't have to go any more than 3, 4, 5 minutes max on that. And you can do that a couple, 3 times a day. You'll be amazed at what that's going to do for your leg strength in this particular position. You can always get down in this position. Okay, and the other thing is, whatever you can do for grip strength, and I like to tell guys between your elbow and your fingertips, this is extremely important in wrestling. And in takedowns, it's more important than a lot of people think. Because as we're wrestling, if I can just grip just for a second or so, I'm already making that guy go defensive. I'm making him uncomfortable. I'm making him pull away. I'm making him twist and squirm. And that's where my shot or my takedown is going to be coming from, right there. So if I can come out and grasp somebody, whether it's the wrists, whether it's inside position, whether it's popping the head down, anything I can do that uses the strength in my forearms here down through my fingertips, it would be real good for me to get strong there. And so I highly recommend something like just squeezing a very soft ball, something that you can squeeze the whole range of motion in your hand in. Nothing hard, nothing big, but very soft. Get the whole range and just squeeze it a lot, and you will find that it'll work your strength clear up through your elbows and even farther, and squeeze it until you start having a little bit of a burn, then relax it, just shake it out, and you can do that off and on throughout the day, and within a very short period of time, you'll be building tremendous muscle endurance, and that, but more importantly, that quick grip strength is what we want. Just for a second or two. Doesn't have to be much more than that. Okay, so that's something also about the stance. Make sure to have your head up. Your neck, a strong neck is important here, but never let your head hang. This is a bad habit that most guys have to one degree or another. Always up here. Okay. Then the last thing I want to talk about here is our movements, and then we'll start actually getting into some of the takedowns here. We got I put down about 9 different ways of moving here, and I'm sure there are more, but I like guys to be aware of where we're trying to go. Number 1, a circular movement is always a slide or a shuffle. I'm not crossing my legs here at all. I'm always trying to do this, and we want our guys to drill this in a bent position, so they're used to moving around with their rear down and their head up and their elbows in. So that's one thing right there. That's your circle. Another thing would be a drive, and if you can picture, I'm wrestling with someone, and all of a sudden I'll just drop down, and I like to drop down with one foot in front. So here I'm going out of this squared stance, and I'm just going to sort of jump up in the air. See, my one foot goes behind a little bit, my other one's in front, and my rear goes down, and my hands are going to be right up in front of his shoulders here. and I'm going to start pushing diagonally up as I step and drive him a couple steps. Now that turns out to be a setup later on. Right now, it's a driving motion, and we call it it's a tie-up also. But that gives you an idea of if I'm driving someone, I'm never driving straight across like this. I'm always underneath the guy, driving up into him, making him get taller than me as I'm driving. It's very powerful. I don't have to be very strong to do that. Okay, the next thing, let me see, that was the drive. Sprawl, is that the next one,
Yes.
Mr. Brendan? Okay. When we do a sprawl, here's one of my pet peeves. When guys sprawl, a lot of times they'll sprawl one leg. Now, if you're being attacked on one leg, maybe there's something in that. Maybe that's okay to a degree. But for the most part, if I want to sprawl, I'm going to be sprawling both legs back. So I'll be throwing both legs back. Also, when guys sprawl, pretend I'm on somebody here and my legs are going back. A lot of guys will put their knees down here. And when you sprawl, as long as this guy's got a hold of your legs or touching your legs, you need to be sprawling all the way down to the front of your thighs. Don't stop on your knees. So a lot of guys will sprawl back, they'll catch themselves on their knees, a guy will come ahead and do some type of a finish on their leg anyway, where they should have been shaking their hips and putting their thighs right down on the mat here. That will sprawl you out of your opponent's arms a lot of times. Plus, we'll be showing you what to do with your hands at that time. So a sprawl, you want to throw your legs back and you want to use him to put your weight up with your chest and so forth. So that's the kind of sprawl that I want to see. And you're working your legs, you're working your thighs, and you're sort of beating him up with the front of your thighs and your abdomen. Okay, what's the next one, Mr. Brandon?
Outside step.
Okay. Here's the way I believe. I know that I'm not going with the popularity right now, but things do cycle, so I expect that someday things will change. But I believe that I want all my guys to do their footwork pretty much the same for every takedown they do. It'll change a little bit. The trailing leg is basically the one that'll change, not so much the lead leg, not so much the stepping leg. But I want guys to step to the outside of their opponent. So for example, if I'm wrestling a guy here and I want to attack his right side, I'm going to step pretty much straight forward, trying to step past his right foot. If I want to attack his other side, I'm going to try to step forward, passing his left foot as much as I can. Now, that means that I'm not going in between his legs. Most of the time I'm not. But once in a while I'll be in a position where I want to shoot something like, let's say, a double leg, and I will take the same kind of step, but I'll be off center a little bit, a 1/2 body width, so that I will go between his legs. But in no time do I want my guys to step and then go down to their knee and then bring the other leg up. And this is what's taught a lot. My feeling is I don't want that long a time frame before I have penetrated. I believe what I'm teaching is quicker, and the reason why it will work is because of the kind of setups that I'm doing. If I'm not doing anything to set up the guy so that he can just go ahead and sprawl, then I can understand why I would want to step inside and go to my knee and bring the other leg up and just keep going like that, because I haven't done anything to stop him from sprawling. But if I've done something to plant his weight or to post him or to pull him toward me so that he's not going to be able to sprawl back very easily, then I don't need to do that. I just need to step and then have the trailing leg do something. The trailing, and so every takedown that we do is the same footwork. So there's no indecision, there's no hesitation. Every takedown we practice, basically they're practicing the same footwork, except for the trailing leg a little bit. And for the most part, they're practicing the same footwork. So they get very, very good at the footwork, very automatic. And I'm just trying to simplify it. Okay, when the trailing leg works, it's going to do usually one of three things. Either it's going to slide in by this foot of the stepping leg. So my trailing leg, as I'm practicing, and I'm pulling, let's say, and I'm shooting in, it'll slide in, and I try to get it right up across from that foot. The foot might be outside his leg. I still want my knee to be right in here. So that's one thing, and so the trailing leg will slide in. Another possibility would be the trailing leg would just stay up because I'm not necessarily going down. Maybe I'm doing a duck under. So in this case, it might step in, or in the third case, it will swing around. And again, I'm up at the higher level here, so sometimes I might be doing a swing like that, or I might be hooking the guy up in some way, stepping in, and let's say I want him to go down to the mat, I'll swing and I'll kneel. So the leg is pretty much either sliding in under my shoulders or swinging behind. Sort of a reverse pivot or standing hip heist, as we could say it. And depending on the level of what I'm trying to do, if I'm trying to step on my feet, the knee won't touch. If I'm trying to get things down underneath or him to go down, then the knee will touch. So that's the trailing leg. That's the way that I work that. What's next there?
Cheating.
Okay. Now when I say cheating, come on out here. What else do we have after that, Brendan?
A level, kneeling, and leg circle.
All right. Come on out here and get my assistant going here. I'll have to use you to show how to cheat here. There's two ways that I talk about cheating, and it's just a term that I use and not really cheating anybody. But if I'm going to set up a takedown, I want my feet to be ready to go. I want my weight to be distributed properly. So for example, let's say I pull both wrists down. That's a double wrist pull. I want to have my weight on the foot that I'm not going to step with, on my trailing foot at the time that I pull that down. That's one aspect of cheating. So that whenever, whatever I'm looking for, let's say he starts to pull his shoulders back, my foot that's going to step is going to be able to step immediately because I've cheated my weight over to the other foot. So I'm ready to go. If I didn't do that, if I was squared off and I pulled down and he started to pull, then I'm going to have to change my weight just a little bit. I'm going to have to shift a little bit to be able to pick that foot up. So I always want my stepping foot to be really ready to go, really light. And it just makes me about a half a step faster. So that's one way of cheating. So we have to learn whatever our setups are. See, right now I put the weight back here because if he happens to reach for my wrist, I'm going to step with my lead foot and do a nice arm drag right here. So I have to be ready with that foot. I cheated. I also cheated a second way, and that was if I wanted to drag this side and I was pulling this down, I walked over here to this side so that I don't have to battle his head or anything. I don't want to be over here trying to do a drag all the way around his head and everything and maybe clunking him or getting fended off by his head. So I want to get on the side, on the corner that I'm going to do my business on. And so in this case, I wanted to sort of pull this down and sort of walk to this side, to be on this side of his head. If I want to do something over here, then I'm definitely going to be lined up over here and try to get my head on this side of his head so that I can attack on this side. So that's my cheating part of it. Got to make sure we're in the right position before we waste our energy trying to do the takedown, whatever it is. Okay, it makes sense, I think, but how many guys don't pay any attention to that and just lose opportunity after opportunity? Okay, so the weight has to be on a proper foot, and you've got to be in a proper position to take advantage of what you're going to do. Okay, then after that, level. A lot of guys just don't ever pay any attention to what level. They wrestle in the same level all the time. They try to attack and attack, and they just don't do good levels, and they don't get underneath the guy if they're trying to do a leg attack, or they don't, like sometimes I might want to raise the guy up, Okay, I got to stretch him. I got to get him up. So I got to dip first, get in close, and get him up before I go to do whatever I'm going to do. And so this level business, we really got to pay attention to it, especially if we start getting tired. And this is a way you can scout your opponent. If he starts having, in the third period, he starts standing up with pretty stiff legs, you know this guy's getting tired. And so you might have a good time attacking him from the waist down right there. And also, if I'm going to attack, I don't want to be up here with him. I want to be down here. I want to be in a position where I can move. So I got to keep talking to myself about my level and keeping my rear down, my head and shoulders up, and don't let myself get straight legs when I'm wrestling. Okay, let's see. Kneeling. Here's another philosophy of mine is, let's say Brendan is just eating me up on takedowns. He's just killing me on single legs or doubles or something here, especially from the waist down. Especially from the waist down. So I just don't want to keep fighting that. I'm going to find out if he can wrestle down on the mat. So we have to learn several ways to get this guy down on the mat. Now I'll cover those later on, but one of them might be, let's say I'll get an underhook and I'll get on his neck here for what I call a neck prop. And so what I'm going to do is once I get this hook up, I'll step around, I'll kneel on one knee and I bring him down. So now I got him down here, and I've got him in a position that I'm comfortable with, where I might execute 2 or 3 different possibilities. Just depends on how he reacts right here and what I like to do. The point is, if I can get good at getting a guy down on the mat, and if I have 2 or 3 series down here that I'm good at, he may have been just killing me up on the feet, but now that I get him down here, things are different. He may not wrestle down here at all. He may be very poor at most of his things down here, and it's a pretty good way to eliminate most leg attacks, because it's going to definitely change his timing and his setups down here. Not that you can't attack a guy on his legs when he's down here. You can, but it certainly changes things. And so I will always try to have guys think about, hey, how good is the guy down on the mat? Let's go down and see who's good down here. And so I'll teach guys several ways to get them down and several different techniques once they're down here, and they can pick and choose and try to get good at 2 or 3 things. Okay, so that's the kneeling. Another thing about kneeling is, once you're down here, we don't want to let them get back up. And if they do get up, we want to get them back down. So we'll cover that a little bit later. I always want to have one knee on the mat and one knee up. I don't want to be with both knees on the mat very often. The only time that might be is if I've got him down under me here and I'm really putting some weight on him and so forth. But eventually I'm going to have to step up to go around this man. So most of the time when I'm down here, no matter what I'm doing with my arms, I want 1 foot up, 1 foot up. And I can change. I can go over here, put the other leg up. And normally I'm going to attack the side that my leg is up on. But I don't have to. For example, if I push here, I'm thinking about attacking that. If he does the right thing with his arm, let's say you grab onto my arm there a little bit, and I'm just going to bring it right this way, and I'm just going to drag it, and I step right past it here. Okay, I attacked that side that my leg was up on. But let's say that I push off, and for some reason things don't react quite right, and I don't like that feeling. I can still change and go to the other side by simply making my knee go down in front and stepping up and doing something to attack this other side, like right here maybe there's a duck under going to happen over here. So that's a possibility. So when we're down, we should be on one knee, 1 foot, and we can spin on that knee a little bit. That's our what we call our spinner, or our windshield wiper knee, or our swisher, whatever you want to refer to that as. Okay? Also, the last thing I want to talk about is a leg circle. Let's spin you around so that they can see me on this side over here. And have you put your hands right on the mat for me. And I just want people to see this. A lot of times I like to get guys to touch the mat. I feel if they're touching the mat, they can't be grabbing me. And so I feel real good about that. I always want them I always want to get the near arm to touch the mat, the near hand. Because that's the hand that I'm going to try to go by right there. Now if I step past this right here, I've already got that leg by. I've got to worry about the trailing leg. I don't want him to snare me as I try to go around. So a couple things. Usually whatever I'm doing, whether it's a drag or a snap down or something here, I'll probably have a little weight on him right here to try to keep that hand on the mat to hold himself up. And it's just going to be a quick hit type of a thing. But more than that is, if I can get this lead foot past, I'm going to push off my back foot, my back toe, and put this lead knee on the mat. I just got through saying we don't go step and then go to our knee, but this is a little different. My lead foot's there, my knee is going down, and when I do, I swing my rear out to the side and straighten out this back leg. So it's going to look like this. It's going to look like that. Okay? So I'm stepping, my chest goes down, knee goes down, and that leg is straight. Now, I don't have to bring that leg straight forward. See, Brendan might pick that hand up yet and try to grab for me, and I'm going to just spin on this knee and be swinging that leg back. Now, the best he can do is try to hook my near leg, but I've got a what? A cross face right here that I can always feed him right here. So he's in trouble with that. That's the best he can do. If he keeps his arm trying to hook my other leg, that's going to get hyperextended right there. He's in trouble. I start picking up ankles and toss him and have a good time with that. So this is called a leg circle. I'm circling around. Now slide out of the way and I'll show them here by myself. It's going to look like, and you can practice like this. You can practice by stepping forward and posting yourself here. Then the knee goes forward as I push with this leg. As my knee goes down, my other hand can be here for balance, and I'm just going to spin and make that leg stay straight and spin around. And the toe just glides over the mat. So a leg circle is I'm snapping a guy, I'm stepping, I'm chesting him, and spinning around. So he does not get a good shot at my leg. I'm stepping, going here, right around. So that's a drill that they can do by themselves, and it can start giving them a real comfortable way of getting around a guy. In a match, when you go around a guy like that, it's so fast that people don't even know what you did. In fact, the guy doesn't know what you did, but you're by him. Okay, now those are some of the movements that I feel are important in wrestling on the feet. Now, I want to just quickly say one last thing here, because this guides all the rest of what we do. And that is, I look at a takedown as being 5 pieces. Sometimes pieces 1 and 2 can be combined. Sometimes pieces 3 and 4 can be combined. But most of the time, or sometimes, 4 and 5 can be combined. Sometimes 3 and 4. It just sort of depends on the takedown, so that there isn't always 5 distinct parts of this. There might only be 3. But here are the pieces, and all of these things need to happen somewhere along the line in a takedown, in my opinion, to have a really good takedown. It's not going to be a shot. The old term shot. I always hear kids say, oh, my shot wasn't so good. Well, your shot is just one little piece of this whole thing. I don't even like to think of it as a shot, really. Okay, first thing is a tie-up. That's getting a hold of the guy in some way. Standing out away from him is not a tie-up. That is non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned as a coach. You're not wrestling if you're not grabbing a hold of the guy. Number 2, a setup. Now that can end up being right out of your tie-up. You could go right in for a takedown because of what you do as a setup. So sometimes they can be one and the same, your tie-up and your setup. But it's something that is done to give you an opportunity to have a takedown. Number 3 is your takedown, whatever it is, and that's what people think of as a shot. If you don't do the first 2, you will not be very successful with that third one. You're just going on athletic ability, and you'll go as far as your athletic ability will take you. You start running into a guy that's a decent wrestler and has some athletic ability himself, you're going to be in trouble because you didn't do the first 2 things very well. Okay, so those first 2 things opened a door for the takedown. Then, after the takedown, you're not done. You got 2 more things to accomplish. One is some kind of finish. The takedown itself doesn't always finish for you, especially if you're wrestling a good guy. And so you're going to have some finishes, and we'll cover some ideas about finishes. Then you're still not done, because in my book, when you reverse somebody and when you take somebody down, you're not done until you look for some kind of a pin. You need pinpoints somewhere. And if it can just give you extra points, that's fine. But if it can give you extra points and then eventually you get him in a worse and worse position and you pin him, that's great. And that's what we're really looking for. It's the best time. Takedowns and reversals are the best times to catch pinholds. And then you're in business. You gain an advantage momentarily. You wrestle through the pause that other guy might take, and you slap on the beginning of a pin, and you're in business. So when we practice, we have to not only have some kind of a tie-up, some kind of a setup, some kind of a takedown, we have to have some kind of finish so that takedown will then lead into not only control, but a pin situation. So we have to identify, well, what can I do here? Well, I'm taking a man down. He's usually going to end in this position. What would be appropriate for me to go into right here that would get him on his back? And virtually any kind of takedown you do, there's something that you could do. You may look at it more as a breakdown to a pin on some situations, but so many times you can take a guy right to his back, right to his side, and if you're paying attention, you can get back points. I'm dwelling on this because that's so important. If you don't practice for that, then you're just half wrestling, in my opinion. Okay, takedowns give you great opportunity for pins. Now, with that all being said, I'm going to start going through a whole list of tie-ups. And I'm going to have Brendan prompt me on a lot of these, and he's going to help me show these and go back and forth to the list that I've got, just so I don't forget some of them. This is up front from all the takedowns that we're going to do. But many of these tie-ups, you can do the same takedowns. We're going to start with our actual takedowns later on here being a double. Okay? Many of these tie-ups can lead to setups, which can lead to doubles. So that's just the way that I'm going to approach this. And so, Brendan, what do we have for the first few? We've got
double elbow V and single elbow V.
Okay, and how about the next 2?
Double wrist pull, 2-on-1 wrist pull.
Okay, that's good enough to start with. Let's come on out here. We'll go through these as fast as we can, but you can always come back to this part of the tape and go over the terminology and see what we're doing. Okay, when I go to touch somebody, I would like to make my hands go right about at their elbows. So my elbows are down, I'm going right into here. Now, if they've dropped their level, then fine, I'm down here with them too. I'm not going to let this guy get under me. Also, if we're out away from each other, I might stomp a little bit and fake over here. As he reacts, I will cut right across and come in with my hands, my V's, right toward the creases of his elbows. And this is an excellent place to first start touching. I might actually hit his wrists. I could stop and grab there. I might slide up his forearms. I might go to his creases of his elbows. I might come up on the bicep. I might come up to the shoulders. Anywhere in here. But I really like to start working right, just jamming right in here. It's pretty safe situation. Also, I shoot for a tie-up. I don't just reach for a tie-up. I'm in here, I'm moving, and if trying to reach for it. I don't want him to get below me. So I drop my level and I come up into it. Okay, so that's my double V right there. I don't do a lot with it. I just touch him and then I slide to something else. All right, bend your knees. Now, single V. I want you to see this. This is pretty interesting. Thumb is going to be up. We can be wrestling. I touch things, and I can just start walking over here, and look how I'm sort of turning my hip a little bit. This is amazing. I could have a wrist or something, but this, or I could just have this hand out, protecting. You will be amazed if you start V'ing with your thumb up like that, how you can actually get to the side of guys and and have their elbow touching them. They'll let you do that. Many guys will let you do that, and not necessarily poor wrestlers. Once I V that, if I start to touch his side with that right there is an open shot for me, an open takedown right there. So not only did I do a tie-up with this, I've created a setup right there. So we're wrestling. I start to walk here. See, I just sort of swing around, and if that gets close to his side right there, my lead foot is right here, I'll just step it and go right here for doubles. If I wanted to take a single, fine. I've got a single right here too. Anytime I can get his arm V'd back to his side like that, you will be amazed. Just start playing with it. You'll be surprised on how guys will let you do it. But you've got to turn. You got to turn a little bit. You got to turn sideways. Okay. The next thing was the double arm, double wrist pull.
Yep.
I love this because this is so simple, and yet you can get very effective with this. And that is, as I pull this wrist down, this is one of those situations where I'm going to get my weight on my back foot. I'm going to squat, and my front foot's ready to step. And I never pull the wrist toward me here on this. I'm always trying to pull the wrist down toward the mat, which means that his weight is going to be rocking up on the front part of his feet. And so we might be wrestling, messing around in here. All of a sudden, I'll just slide down the wrist a lot of times, and I'll walk over to the corner that I want and pull right here. Now, at this point, if I've pulled down, his weight is over his feet. I've never pulled down on a guy yet in this life that didn't react in some way. Nobody is going to stand there in that position. Now, how they're going to react is a different story, but we try to learn what tendencies there are. And here's the most common ways that guys will react. Some of them, they won't move their wrists at all. They'll just start to pull in their shoulders like that. They'll start to pull back. As they pull, I'm on the corner that I want to be here. Excuse me, got the wrong foot. I was going to be in the other corner, and then I changed here. Okay, I'm on the corner I want to be. As he starts to pull back, I'm just going to shoot through his arms. I'm going to turn I can keep my head out if I want. I'd probably turn it in, turn right ear to his belly button, and my outside foot is going to be able to step, and my other leg would just slide right in. And there's going to be my double right here. So with my head inside on that. I could have had my head outside. Okay? So let's turn it this way and let me do it on the other side. Okay? So I'm pulling down here. So now my weight's up, my weight's back here, so that as I pull, again my head can turn in, and I'm just going to go right through. Right through. Now, that's one way the guy might react. Another way might be that he'll twist his arms. Any kind of a twist at all. I'm not going to throw him. Don't waste my time. But any kind of a twist, I'm just going to let go and shoot my head right through there. And it's the same type of emotion that I did on the other one. No different. Any kind of emotion at all with his hands. Okay. Now, if I've done this, I can also do this, 2-on-1 on the wrist. And again, my foot is ready to step right here. And this is very deceiving. Normally, the guy doing what I'm doing doesn't feel like he can go until he's done this a lot. But again, I pull down, and if the guy doesn't do anything to my wrist here, if he just starts to pull back, again, I just let go and attack. There's my double again. I'm using a double right now, but you could be doing singles too. You could be doing sweeps. Okay, so again, that's a 2-on-1 there. If I want to walk around, give him an opportunity to peel that wrist off, then at this point I've got a drag started. Okay, so that, again, that gives you a little bit of idea of what you could do. If I pull down and he blocks my shoulder, then I've got a block here. I've got a block with my forearm above his elbow. Again, my lead foot is going to step. It can step either out or in, but I would step out probably and go right to here. And if he blocks my head, it's the same way. So again, my weight is ready to go. I've cheated to the corner. I've done a wrist pull down, and I'm ready for him, whatever he does. Okay, what else? What's after that? What's the fifth one there?
Forearm baseball grip.
Forearm baseball, and then what's after that?
Russian 2-on-1.
Okay.
Double shoulder pull, push.
Okay.
Double inside tie.
Okay. Good. We'll stop right there. Okay. So here we go. First one was baseball, right?
Yep. Okay.
Now we're talking about 2-on-1 here. Okay. The baseball grip that I like people to think about is like this, like I'm going to be swinging a bat right here. So my palms, my thumbs are up, and my palms are in, and that's the baseball grip. Now let's turn this way, for example. I use this as a real nice setup for arm drags. So I'm messing with the guy, might bob his head a little bit, and then all of a sudden I'll come over here and take his wrist and start walking to this side right here. And as I do, I'm coming down with my other hand, and I got my baseball grip right here. So we're wrestling, I'm messing around right here. Or any way that I can cross over and do that. Now, this isn't quite a baseball grip because I don't have the top hand that way, but it'll still serve the same purpose a lot of times. So that's the second way of gripping that. Okay? And so, however I'm wanting to do this, jamming in here or pulling down and walking up in here, I'll walk this up into the mat, see? And normally, I'm looking for a reaction. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to put this on him, see? And my hips are down. And if he grabs for that wrist at all, then I got a nice drag going right there again. I'm ready to step, ready to attack that side. Okay, so that's the baseball. We use that. Let's say he's got his hand on my head. You know, I'll take it. Now that's a baseball grip there that I've taken off. And we do a throw by with that. Okay, Russian. Different ways to do Russian grip. Again, a Russian is just a 2-on-1, but it was popularized by the Russians, and there's different styles. I'll just give you an example of a couple different ways. You can grab this palm up by the wrist or palm down. A lot of times when I'm doing what we call cross wrist grabbing, I've already got my palm down on that. And so when I come around, I'll keep that just like that. I won't switch back to this other way here, palm up. Doesn't matter. Okay? At this point, this arm can go different ways. It can catch like with the little finger by the crease of the elbow and the hand on the bicep and be pulling into me and stay in sort of an open position like this. I can raise up on my toe and start to press down on the shoulder and put my forehead right up in his neck area and pull down. That's a closed position, the way I like to think of it. I can stay in another kind of open position, and instead of holding on with this arm up by his bicep, I'm going to take my elbow pointed up and use my little finger blade here and start jamming up under his armpit. Let's turn this way.
We need the camera toward behind you.
Okay, there's the camera.
Behind you.
Okay, I'm going to push it toward the window.
Okay, yeah.
So we good?
Yep.
We good? All right, right here?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I need Brendan to keep getting me squared away here. And so I'll start pushing and walking, stepping behind his leg with my lead leg. So I can start pushing him across the mat like that, really open things up. And in there, I'm looking for an ankle pick or a far knee block or a yank down or a fireman's. There's several things that I can do out of this whole deal here. But that gives it a whole nother look. So the Russian really has several different ways that we can work with this arm tie up here. Let's see, what else was it? Okay, double shoulder push. I talked about this earlier. If my hands the palms of my hands and the heels of my hands push up under the guy's shoulders. Not straight across, not straight into the mat. Yes, I could be in trouble there, couldn't I? But if I drop my level and push up under those shoulders, then I can move a man back easily several steps until he finally gets his feet back there to post. That's what I want. I want to move him back a couple, 3 steps. He hustles back to post. That means he's starting to push back into me. Depending on what he has done with his hands and arms, I may have some very easy double legs, some singles, some high crotches, some firemen's, or some duck hunters. I got lots of stuff that I could be doing right there just because of pushing him back, making him straighten up, and I'm still down with my hips right here. Okay, so that double shoulder push, just for a couple steps or so. Okay, what was the next one? Oh, I know, double inside, was it? Double inside position. Now this is a golden position because it's I can attack all kinds of things if I have both hands inside, and I can also defend pretty well with double underhooks and things. So it's a very nice position. The thing about it is, I don't want to straighten my arms out very much, and I don't want to point my elbows out. I don't want to try to reach around to his triceps and open my arms up. I want to keep my elbows bent and facing down toward the mat. When I put my hands in here, my little fingers are going to be around where his creases are in his elbows, and then my hands are on the inside of those biceps, on the front of the biceps, and I can push into him. I can let my hands slide around just a little bit and give a quick yank if I want to do some pulls, some arm pulls. I can do something called push-pull, which we'll have in just a second, coming up here probably. And I can always slide out of this. You know, I can catch his wrist by sliding out, turning palms up, or maybe sliding over. Just all kinds of stuff. And I can do firemen's and duck unders and just everything in this position. And so this is a wonderful position, double inside position. Okay, check and see what else we got right there. Again, I'm showing these because we'll be done with these, and then I'll just use these as we go through the different takedowns. Go ahead.
Double inside tie.
Okay, that's what that was.
Push-pull.
Push-pull.
Single leg inside tie and wrist.
Okay.
Single inside tie and outside elbow.
Okay.
Single inside tie and shoulder block.
All right, let's stop right there. See if I can remember those. Okay, come on back out. And we talked about the push-pull. See, I've got both hands inside right now. As I push-pull, I'd step forward with the palm that I'm pushing, and I like to push up under his muscle, and I like to make his arm go back and up as far as possible. Notice I'm stepping forward, but I'm not putting all my weight on that foot. I'll put it forward, but my weight's still sitting back here, most of my weight, so that when I do my shot in a second, I'll just lift up and step a little bit farther with that same foot, because I'll either have him coming back at me, or if he doesn't come back at me, I'll be able to attack him anyway because his arm's out of position. So once I've done that, I'm in really good shape when I do that push-pull. The pull part of it is over here on this side. I let my thumb go out with my fingers, so all are together, and as I push over here, I'm pulling on that tricep right there. And I'm not just pulling toward me, I'm pushing up with this hand and pulling down with that hand. And my weight's back here like that. And he's in bad shape right now. All his weight is caught over here on this leg when I do a proper push and pull. It's trapped just for a moment. He couldn't shoot on me if he wanted to. All right? So that's our push-pull. We can get a lot of good stuff out of this push-pull. I could have my head touching too on the corner. And when I push-pull and my head is touching, I twist my forehead toward him, tighten up my neck muscles, and drive into him, into his temple. So that happens at the same time that I push-pull. And this guy is all blocked out. This side is mine, right here. I can shoot and do all kinds of stuff on that side right there. Okay. We doing good here on our positioning?
Move
with the tape?
a little bit back.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. So that's our push-pull. Now the next thing that we want to be thinking about was some more inside position, but we're also going to, let's flip around this way so I can see the other side. I'm going to keep inside position with my right hand, but I'm going to slide down and I've got the wrist now. And so what might happen here is that I might be walking this way and pushing and making all manner of evil happen over here and making him sort of forget about this wrist that I've got over here. I've got a hold of it firmly, but I'm not squeezing it or any big thing over here. And I'm looking over here on this other side, but if I can get him over here, now all of a sudden my weight's on my lead foot, my other foot is my shooter foot, and look how close his arm is to him. So let's get in our position here. We're wrestling, and I start to walk here. I just let that hang right there. Now I can open up my hand, step, and I do what we call a fall-in double right there. That's the way several of them have been here. And I'll just fall into that double right there. And it's amazing what we can do with that. Now the other strategy would be to really pull it down and squeeze it so that he wants to twist it or pull it back. And again, I do everything the same. As soon as he starts moving that, I step right here with it. Just like there's a string tied to my leg, and I step when he pulls back. So that's the inside position with the wrist. Now if we're up in here, and let's say he's got my head, then I've got what we call the outside elbow position. And the way that works is my thumb's on the outside and my four fingers on the inside of his elbow bone here. And in this position, I can there's two ways to do this. I can pull back, straight back with my elbow, or I can flip up. The thing about flipping up is if we flip up and do some things, don't be turning your body sideways to them. We've got to keep our body, if we flip and we do like a duck under or a high crotch, make sure that you don't turn your shoulders out. In fact, I could flip and I can do an inside double again if I wanted to do that. So that's the only thing about having your elbow up and pulling. Otherwise, pull it back this way and you have to change levels as you pull back on that. Okay, so that's the inside position over here. And if he's got my head or something, there's the elbow, outside elbow, right there. Okay, we also had what? Inside position, shoulder block, didn't we?
Yep.
So let's go around here. Let's say he's grabbing my head again. A lot of times I like to just block that shoulder. He's grabbing my head here. I'm blocking that shoulder right there. I can get outside elbow again, or I can rotate my hand up in here, and I'm starting to get an inside position again. Even though I'm not exactly on it, see my little finger's starting to get there. And if I wanted to do a pull, all I do is pull back like this, sort of let my hand spin and pull with my fingers, and like there might be a duck under. Or he's got my head here, I'm blocking that shoulder, walking away from it, circling away from it, work my hand inside, and I might pull into it like a fireman's situation here, or drop into a double. Lots of possibilities. Okay, are we behind the tape here good?
Yeah, we're behind it.
Okay. Now, check some more here.
Okay.
We're just going, we're working our way down through this list of 20-something here. Okay, what else we got there?
You outside elbow,
Yeah.
shoulder block, wrist draw,
Okay.
single inside tie and wrist draw.
Okay, next one.
Outside elbow and shoulder block,
Okay, we did that just
elbow
now.
jam,
Okay.
and overhook.
And overhook. Overhook. Okay, good. Come on back. Okay, now let's say that I'm wrestling here and he grabs my wrist. Okay, I've got an inside position over on this other arm. So what this is I refer to this as inside, single inside position, and then I call this a wrist draw. We don't want to yank it and stuff, because if we start doing that, even though he's on the outside, he's still got an opportunity to attack me right there. So anytime he grabs my wrist, I'm either going to draw it down and across or draw it out. And I keep my inside position over here to try to keep him blocked off or push on his shoulder, one or the other, as I do this. And if I draw it in, then I can come and do a drag. I can step and do a drag. If I draw it out, that I can run my head through. But my footwork is the same again. So we're wrestling, he grabs my wrist, and I might pull it down and drag right there. Or he grabs my wrist, I might shoot it out. And what I'm doing is just sort of nonchalant, and I'm not taking a lot of time. I'm just dropping it down and trying to shoot my head through that hole right there. And I just call that a wrist draw. A wrist draw across there. If you yank it, it's going to come out of his hand. Okay, let's turn back around this way. Okay, he grabs my head again. We got lots of things when the guy grabs their head, even though I don't want to grab his head usually. This is my elbow jam. Now, my hand comes up, faces palm down, my thumb is outside, my fingers are over his muscle, right in the crease of the elbow again. My elbow has to go up, and I'm going to make my head pull back this way toward my arm as I jam across and down, right there. So his arm actually gets trapped right there. Momentarily, his arm is trapped. So I can really press down and jam in, and it's going toward that crease right there. Now, when that happens, what I'm trying to do is to make him react. And oftentimes, I like to be in the inside position over here with this other arm so I can grab things. And as I jam in, if I feel any pressure coming back when he tries to pull that out of there, if he reacts with his arm instead of his body, my inside position hand will just come and just tap that. Just to tap it out of the way. But I don't turn my shoulders. I tap it, and then I attack. And I like to just do a fall-in double with my head on the inside again, right here. And I'm right into that. And it works very nicely. Guys will usually react with their arm. Now, if he starts reacting with his body, where he starts to try to run around and so forth, what I do is more of a throw-by. I jam down, he starts to come around, then I throw by and try to attack his hip joints right here. Again, my left foot, or my lead foot is ready to step. So if he starts to walk, I'm just going to try to attack right in here. Okay. And that's again, that gets into the baseball type of a thing right there, where we're throwing that by. Okay. So, let me see.
Your back is to the TV right now.
Okay. Okay. Now, the overhook situation. Okay. When we do overhooks, again, I'm overhooking, and we'll turn around, and I gotta have my hand up in here. Gotta have my hand up in here for an overhook situation. This other arm might be doing different things with wrist, blocking over here in the armpit or the elbow. A lot of times, though, wrist is where we're going to be working. And then there's different ways of dealing with their footwork. Some people like to have their foot working in here, right between his feet or out in front, forming a little triangle. Some people like to be on the side. Just depends on what it is that we're trying to do when we're working with this guy. Okay, so what your favorite movements are. So, but our overhook here, we got to make sure we stay in here, because if this slips at all, then he could shrug that by and start getting me in trouble. So I got to keep my forearm and my fist up into his chest here a little bit, and then block off the other side. Do some things with the other hand, and then work for whatever takedown. Okay, that's the overhook. Underhook is sort of similar. There's different ways of doing underhooks. I like this one where I make a cup, and it faces my face here. I look right at that cup, and my elbow goes way up, right there. I will take either a wrist or block the far shoulder over here with a fish hook with my V up in the armpit, something like that. And I will step between his legs with my leg. I get way in here. There's this little series here that we can do. And I actually start walking into this man. So that's one way to start using the underhook. Other ways is with your elbow down, hook his shoulder, be pulling his shoulder down, and you're wrestling them out in here with different things, and different kinds of possibilities out in here. that you can work. Going into a front chancery that we'll work on down the road here. Another way is for the underhook to be very shallow. I've seen guys do this where they'll be very shallow on a shoulder, and they'll do some different things with that. I'm not going to teach any of that, but that's a whole nother series of stuff right there with the underhook. Okay, so we got overhook and underhook. What else we got there, Mr. Brennan? Take a look for us. Well, these are tie-ups.
Okay, there's a bunch of underhooks I think we did. Underarm and forearm, underhook and neck pry, underhook and same side wrist,
Okay.
underhook and head strap.
Okay. Let me do that. Come on back over.
Okay.
Some more little underhook things. Okay. One is, once I'm underhooked here, I like to walk around and try to catch his neck and pull down. This is what I refer to as an underhook and neck pry. And with this, I can drive into him. I can be stepping behind him here. I can step and I can swing him around. I can step and swing him all the way down to the mat. And that's what I like to do a lot with this. But he's in bad position if I keep my elbow pointed down and my forearm right against him right here. I can push him and pull him and swing him all over the place. And I just keep moving my feet. Okay. And if I want to swing him down, I always step behind him with my lead foot and then swing the other leg down to the mat and pull him down, rip him right down. Okay? Here's another type of a deal. I can catch the wrist here, and I can pretend that I'm going in for a Russian. And if he starts to circle away, I dip and step up under, and there's my underhook. Let's turn this way, maybe, Steve. So I'm wrestling, I come in here, I start to pretend I want to do a Russian. He starts to circle away, I dip and shoot my arm right up through there for my underhook, and I keep possessing this wrist. Now this is extremely important because, again, I want to clear out this whole side of his body here. I really don't want to do anything major with the underhook. I just want to set him up for a takedown. So as I've got this, I step in again, dip my hips, and stretch him as tall as I can. If I can get anywhere close to his leg at all, then all of a sudden I just kneel on this other leg. And I drop, keep my head in position that it is now, let my ear fall, and there's my double right there. Very nice double. Okay? If I'm up under here, and he starts to bend way over and try to turn and get away from me, and I can't lift him up very well, then he's into a front chancery type of a thing there. So I've got him in a pretty good situation when I have this inside wrist business right here, when I start doing this inside wrist. Okay. Now, let's see. There was something else. Let's see. Wrist.
Head strap.
Yes. Now, I'm referring to this as a head and arm trap type of a thing, and once I'm into an underhook, I can be messing with it. All of a sudden, I can dip and try to get my head right up under him here, and just come up in here and lock everything. Just lock everything way up high. And guys have different ways they like to lock, but I would never want to be here very long. I'm not looking for a throw right here. I'm looking for a shrug. I'm looking for a go-by. And so as I got my underhook, we're wrestling in here. If I can get my head under here, by his jaw, by his chin, just touch him, and then dip, and then just try to come right up in here. All I'm trying to do is get his arm up over my shoulder. And then as I do that, all I'm going to do is to just shrug. And then I'm going to trap that far arm right there. I'm going to slide right down and trap that arm, and then I have a way to get him down to the mat from there. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to do a big throw. If you want to practice those, fine, they're there. But I would rather just come up, stretch him, slide behind, trap the arm, take him down. So that's what I'm looking at there. I've mentioned a couple times, getting his head down, going into what we call a front chancery, which is over the head, under the arm here. If I also bring his head down, I can fall into what I call a closed front headlock. And so my shoulder would be going over his head, and I like to teach a closed front headlock where this hand is palm down, and I'm right up. Let me see. I haven't done this in a while. Okay, I'm right up in here with the arm around the head goes palm down, and now I'm into my front headlock. Now at this point, I'll step and swing him down. I could do ankle picks. I could even do what they call around the world fireman's out of there. But usually I'll swing him down to the mat and do some things down there in that closed front headlock position. Okay, let me see. Check and see, are there any more that we've missed there that you can see? I have a big old list of them here. Let's see. And we'll be going through as we go do our takedowns. You'll see some of these tie-ups here.
Okay, we did front chainstring, front headlock.
Yep.
A neck over tie.
Okay.
Head trap and tricep.
Okay.
Head and arm trap. Head and wrist trap.
Okay. Yeah, head and arm trap, head and wrist trap. Okay. That's good. All right, come on out. We'll do this. A lot of times, if he goes here, this is our over tie right here. He grabs my head. I might come and catch his head back here. Now, I don't like to grab the head very often, but when I grab it here, I'm looking for a particular takedown on this arm right here. So I'm over tying that arm. I've got inside position with the other hand, and I sort of drive back into him. If I can get him to post and push back at all, then I actually will step a little bit, drop my level, pop up under here, and do a throw by right there. We just call it a bend down, and it's a nice little motion right there. So again, I over tie here. I over tie on the same side. And I push into him here with the inside position. If I get him to post at all, then I step, drop my level a little bit, block, and bend down. Right here, trying to make him touch the mat right there. Okay, so that's an over tie. And you might do other things out of an over tie. Gosh, I'm forgetting now. What was in the, okay. If I do grab the head, bend your knee, I might step forward and grab it. I don't want to pull it into me here. I always want to keep the head down. So a lot of times I'll pull it into my pec right here, right near my armpit, front of it is. And as I step and swing, now I can underhook over on this other side. Let's do that again so they can see from here. Once I step forward, now I'm going to swing my leg around behind. As I pull his head down into my pec, I will go under with my underhook right there. And now I'm into that trapped head and underhook position. I can also be doing a wrist, like a cross wrist here. And as I do, we're wrestling, I cross wrist, then I'll chop. And when I chop, I use the little finger blade right here. I chop down. I want to get it chopped down enough so that I can get my armpit to go over, catch his head right there. So I have his wrist in my hand and his head underneath there. And out of this position, I can either step and swing him down, or sometimes I'll step and catch his leg and swing him all the way down to his back. I didn't flip him over right there. Why don't we do that? I'll just flip him over here, and I've got a nice half situation started, or an inside cradle started with that right there. And there are some other little options that I can do once I trap him in that. So here it is again. I'll have his wrist caught, and then I'll chop him right there, run right over, and now I got my left hand available to do things with right here. And this guy's in trouble. I can get him right down. So that's that's a head trap and wrist right there. Okay, I think we pretty much covered those, right?
I think that wraps it up. Let me check.
Okay. And if not, we'll allude to some of these as we go along here.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, what's our time now, Mr. Brendan?
1:15.
All right, we got through a lot of preliminaries here. And we've given you an idea of some takedowns already, but we needed to do that. And there's one other thing now that I just want to mention, and you watch all the takedowns we do and see if this isn't true. I try to tell the guys, what you've got to do is beat one of his elbows. If you beat two, that's great, but beat one. And what we mean by beating one elbow is you've got to have it either against his body, or as it circles around, out here and back, around to the side, or out away from his body pretty far, or crossing like that. Anywhere in that circle, you need to put one of his elbows. Or blocked up, so that you can go under, so the elbow can't go down and block you off with the forearm. So where a good position, remember I said, would be to have the elbow be able to face the mat and to be away from the body a little bit. But if it gets pressed back in, or pushed back, or pulled out to the side, or stretched out in front, or across, or around, any of those things, there's an appropriate takedown that can be done to that. And so think about always checking out the guy's elbows and trying to work on at least one of them so that you can move it into a good position. Beat one elbow and you got a chance for a takedown. And that goes for virtually any kind of takedown. There'll be an elbow involved somehow. There'll be an elbow involved with that takedown. So I sort of challenge you to look and see what ones wouldn't have that. I think you're going to have a hard time finding them. Okay, so with that idea, everything we do, we want to try to think about beating an elbow now. Okay, we have what? We have double legs? Is that the next thing, or what's next here for us?
Well, yes, did you talk about the setups?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Positioning.
Okay, so read those to me. Pulling,
Positioning, posting, throw-bys
and shrugs, influencing. All right, so there's 5 things there. Real quick, pulling, we've already seen some of that. If I pull the guy to me, it makes one step be good for me on my setups. So that's one aspect of setting up. We're pulling or dragging, different things, chopping down. We're getting the guy coming to us so he can't sprawl. Positioning, we've talked about that, where we might be circling or do a push-pull and his weight gets over on one foot, just so. Or we position him so that we're cheating, we're on a corner or something. So we're positioning for that particular takedown that we're after. So that's another way that we do our setups. So we can pull, we can position. What was the next one, the third one?
Posting.
Okay, posting, we've already seen that today, where I might be pushing against him in some way, and he's going to get back and post his feet and push back. That's fine. I like him coming at me like that because, again, he doesn't sprawl well. So that, again, my one step, my outside step footwork will work real great with this. Okay? Influencing, or there's another. Okay. If he's driving at me, if he's really coming at me and pushing, then we have to get some kind of throw-by or shrug motion. So throw-bys and shrugs. So if he's coming at us really good, not just posting, but really coming at us, then we have to have something where we take his momentum and just keep it going and then attack him and score off of that. And then the influence. And the influence, we've already done some of that. And a good example of that might be where I've got an inside position in his wrist and I'm walking over this way and I'm just letting the arm straighten out and he's just sort of falling asleep with that wrist because I'm causing all the disturbance over here, and all of a sudden my hand is just inches away from his leg. I open up, I make my step, and I fall in and do a nice double right there. So that's sort of an influence thing. Or if I pull a wrist down here, 2-on-1, and he reaches to peel it off, that was influence. I influenced him to peel it off, and I took advantage of it with an arm drag right there. So that's fun to me. That's a fun way to wrestle. Doesn't take much energy. Just takes practice and timing. And then you can really have some fun. You can take some people apart. You can be an operator here. be quite a bit, I think. We'll put on a second tape and just go right on through. So so far we talked about tie-ups, we talked about setup ideas, and now we'll just go and do some things here. So now we're going to go what, double legs to start with?
Yep.
Okay, my feeling about doubles and singles are, go for a double if you can. If you get both legs trapped up, that's pretty good usually. If you go for a double and miss, then fine, you've got singles. Now, that isn't to say that you don't want to try to do single leg sweeps at times, or high crotches, or leg snatches, but I believe that if you work on your tie-ups and setups, you will be positioned to do doubles a lot. And doubles are good because you can get into back points out of those pretty easily. Okay, so do I have anything under those doubles there that we got to remember?
Number 1 was setups.
Okay.
Number 2 it finishes.
Finishes, okay. And what's after that?
Secondary takedowns.
Secondary, that's number 3?
Yeah.
Okay, and then what I have under that?
Under secondary takedowns.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Elbow out.
Okay.
Alley-oop.
Okay.
Front bridge and tiptoe.
All right.
Inside out.
All right, we'll hold right there. Come on over, we'll get to work here on this, and we'll just go till the tape runs out.
Okay. Well, real quick, there was stuff under finishes.
Okay, go
If you
ahead.
want me to do those
Go
instead.
ahead. What is that?
Top,
Mhm.
outside trip,
Mhm.
inside trip,
Mhm.
and lift.
Good. And then
Inside, or tripod sit.
tripod sit till there's 5 of them.
Okay.
Well, I had those already in my mind, I think, but we'll see. So thank you very much. Okay, come on over. We'll get going. Here's the deal with doubles. I have shown you a few doubles, but now we're going to try to really focus on it here. When I'm for a double, I would like to have one knee down usually. Don't have to. If you could squat well enough and do a nice pull or something, you can hit your shoulder at the guy's waist and he can pop right up over you and you could still be on your feet. You can lift him and carry him around and so forth. Make sure he doesn't go off the mat. The thing that I'm always concerned about when I'm doing any kind of doubles or singles is I really don't want to lift the guy unless it just happens, unless he pops right up in the air. Because you've always got a chance of losing your balance and having something bad happen. Number 2, there's always a chance of him getting hurt on a slam situation, or you being called for a slam even if it really wasn't a slam. That's a referee's choice. So I'd rather not pick a guy up. Plus, I don't like to waste the energy. So when I shoot in, my head could be outside, and you've seen me have my head inside a lot. So if I have my head inside, it would look like this. The thing of it is, either one is just fine. And I'm going to start with some head outside stuff here. I'm shooting in. If I really catch the guy close to me, I can do what they call wrap the ankles or snake the legs down here. And just put my hands down as low as I can and drive up through him and have him fall. Now that's a pretty good finish right there. And then I would go into what we call split crotch off of the doubles a lot. And that's on the pinning tape. Okay, so that's one thing. I could just wrap, drive through. But also, I like to do several other things as far as finishes. Usually I try to get him coming toward me. So let's turn you around over here. There we go. And so if he's coming toward me, I like to chop. Now I don't want to lock my hands here. I want to have my hands free. If I grab the guy, I grab him just above the back of the knees, right in the lower hamstrings. If I chop, I'm going to turn my little finger blade toward the side of his knee and chop there. Anytime I chop, it is accompanied with a lift on the other side. So I'm pulling up on that hamstring right there. Now, if my head's on the outside and I chop, I'm going to spin on this knee that's on the mat and step around with my other foot, chop him down, lift, and stay right with him as he falls to the mat, right here. As he falls, I start pulling his legs apart, sliding my knees in, posting, right here. as I get inside, I got a nice split crotch, and then you'll have to check out our tape to see how we go ahead and finish that. Basically, I'm just catching here and getting caught and doing a facelift and stepping up and pinning it right there. Okay, let's come back here. So that's my chop to the far side. But now let's say that he's very agile and he takes a step and catches himself right there. Now, if I want to continue with the chop, there's a nice drill where we just keep changing our legs and our knees on the mat and chop back the other way and chop back the first way and keep moving around until we find a weakness. So he caught himself already over here. So my second chop would be right in front of me. I chop here. Now remember, I've got to lift the other side. My leg's in the way. So as I chop here, I'm going to throw down that leg and try to collapse this leg and lift the other one. Now he's coming toward my head. So I've just got to duck my head, make sure he goes across my head, and right there he's down. Again, I would try to catch his hamstring, put my head on the mat, tippy toe in, and split crotching right there. So I don't want him to get away from me. Okay. Come back. Now, the way this drill works, just lean on me here. This guy just goes about 50%, and I'll chop and he'll catch himself. I'll chop and he'll catch himself there. See? Now I've thrown that knee back, but he's caught himself. So I'll chop and step up again, see? And he'll just keep trying to catch himself. Chop, and now I might step up and slide around on the other knee. See? I can change knees. I can step up on one side or the other and make him fall over my head. So I can just keep chopping, chopping, chopping. Now, if you decide that you don't want to keep chopping, and remember, we always lift on the opposite side that we're chopping, but we have to be active on our knees. Okay, let's say I chop, and he catches himself. Now, I might not chop back. I might not want to do that. I might want to take this leg that's up, once he caught himself out there in that other foot, and I might want to step and hook and trip him right here and knock him back. Now, let's turn this way. Whenever I do a trip, I'm just trying to bring my outside leg around and put my heel just inside his heel. And I'm trying to really stomp my foot down on the mat, and as I do, make my groins and my torso pop up into him to what? To lock his leg right there. So as I'm here, boom, right there. Now that leg is locked. I'm pushing on it with my groin, and as he falls, I'll put my hands out the post, and then I've got his leg trapped. So we're going to do something with this here. Let's come back. Where's your tape?
Right here.
Okay. I want to make sure that we see this here. I'm going to go across the mat with you. Okay, so as I'm tripped here, as he starts to fall, let's turn this way. I'm going to keep this trapped. I'll post out, he'll fall back, and I didn't keep the trap very well. I was being too soft. Okay, and right here, I want to catch him so his knee is straight up, so he doesn't get his hips turned. At this point, when I've got that leg on the mat, my knee on the mat, and my heel up in the air, this guy's in trouble. If he's trying to turn into me, I always look away to the high side. I'm always pressing down with my groin on that leg so that he's trapped right there. And at this point, I can block inside on the other leg and start dragging it toward his head. Now I can start getting into half Nelsons. I can start working in a cradle, bottom leg cradle, all kinds of good stuff, or come off to a split crotch again. But very good stuff if I keep the leg trapped. Okay, stand up again, please. Okay. So once I'm in here, as he falls, I'm going to try to stay right tight to that. So as he falls, I'm going to go right here. Now I got it trapped. And now if he turns, that's fine. I'll just keep that right there and I slide it, block it. I can start doing a claw, bottom arm stuff, facelifts, all kinds of good stuff right there. Okay, so keep that leg. That's very important that you keep that. Okay, you just got to Make sure that you press your groin down into it, because if you don't, he'll slide through or he'll knee you by accident probably, but you don't want that. Okay, so that's the trip. Now let's and the lift, I talked a little bit about the lift. Come on in here. If I happen to hit him and he pops up, I want to be ready to spin on my knee, keep my shoulder into him, and as he turns, drop my shoulder right into him. Again, pull the legs apart, block with my knees, and start working on face lifts, attack the top shoulder, step up, start face lifting, whatever, start pinning that guy, underhook his shoulders. That's our split crotch right there. Okay, now another possibility here is a sit-through, a tripod sit-through. We'll do it this way. He's over me and I've started to attack him here. Now at this point, and my leg's up, my head's out, if he starts to sprawl back on it and there's still enough space here, if he's not way down yet with his hips, I'll do what we call a tripod sit-through. My trailing knee will slide right through between his leg and my foot, and I'll pull down on his far knee, I'll chop down on it, and try to lift up a little bit on the near knee, keep my head right against him. So as he's starting to sprawl back on me, I'll sit through, twist, and again, I'll try to come up in here, split him out, and start getting my back points right in here. So that's your tripod sit-through. Now that's if his hips are up enough. Now, let me see, a couple other things that I wanted to talk about here. This is all with my head outside. If my head's inside, the neat part about having a head inside, I do a lot of these now. Didn't used to, but I do now. My head's inside, and I'm stepped up outside. Okay, I got an arm and a leg on here that I can fight him with on that side. I got a head and an arm in here. I'm really good. He's got a problem. And if I trip here and drive through, it's just a nice deal. I can still chop here and spin on my knee and let him spin right off over my head, pull his legs apart, jump in the split crotch again. So it's just a very, very nice situation. Okay, if I were to lift right in here with my head out and my leg out here, I would pop up and I do a different kind of a lift now. I pull his legs across in front of me, making my knee go down to the mat. So I'm on both knees and I pull him sideways. Now I keep my shoulder into his gut, let him fall with my shoulder right in the gut, right here. Then I pull the legs apart, climb in again, splitting just like I always do. As you see, I like to do the split crotch a lot. That really messes the guy up. Okay, so that's the way I lift if my head's on the outside. And I already showed you about lifting, if my head's on the inside. I already showed you how I lift if it's on the outside. Now, inside trip. If I'm on the, my head's to the inside, and I've tried to chop and stuff, and he's starting to sprawl a little bit, go ahead and sprawl, and I can't get my outside trip, what I'll do is just turn sideways, turn my body to him a little bit, and let my knee come through, and as I go for this trip, I'm going to let my knee come through and drop down so that my knee's down by his ankle, okay? And as I do, I just turn my hip sideways, pull, and he falls. Now his leg came out on me right there, okay? I'm in here, and right there's my trip, right there. If he falls now, I got it good enough to where I kept it in. And so as I have that, I pull it toward my other leg, and I actually can keep pressure on that right there so that he's not going to move on me very well. I can go into my split crotch and start just working up his body and get him in trouble right there. Okay? Brendan, you can feel that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Where's that tape here? Okay. Camera?
Yep.
Okay. Now, so that's our inside trip. And now if my head's on the outside, if I'm over here, and my head's on the outside, I can't do the inside trip very well because I can't get my leg off the mat. So I would just stay with this kind of trip, or if he's sprawling back, I'll go down to that knee, and then I'd step up here and try to get over that thing. But I have to turn sideways on this inside trip. It's not the greatest. I don't do it a lot. Usually you don't have to because of all the other finishes there. Okay. Now, I think, check those out for me, those secondary moves. I think we're ready for those. I think we did all these other finishes just now.
Yep.
Okay, so secondary we had the elbow out.
Yep.
And the alley-oop.
Yep.
And what else? Fireman stuff?
Bump bridge and tiptoe.
Oh yeah, okay.
Inside out, and then the fireman's family, and the handstand series.
Yeah, upside down.
Inside out.
Inside out, that's right. I call that inside out. I flip-flop between upside down and inside out, and then the fireman's and then the hand plant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go over a few secondary situations here right now. And these moves are done, I'm going to save the underhook ones. If a guy's underhooking me on a defense, I'm going to save that for when we get into fireman stuff because it'll fit into that. I'll just mention that we can go into fireman's things when we're down underneath the guy and his arms are dangling or he's trying to underhook us. So we can do some fireman's family things. Also, in a minute, we're going to do hand plant series. And that's what I really feel is an excellent thing for a secondary move, so that if we're trying to get a double or something and we're caught underneath the guy, we can always come off to a hand plant and end up getting a nice single leg situation and putting the guy on his back with different options. But I want to get back to a couple double situations. If I'm in for a double and he sprawls, we're going to do what's called an alley-oop. If he hasn't gotten down too far yet on me, I let go with one hand, but I keep the other hand on the leg. And with this hand, I'm going to reach way through his legs, spear my head and shoulders through his leg, and the knee that's on the same side that the hand is on. So I put my left hand through, I slid my left knee up under me. So now I've got my base. So my shoulders are right under his abdomen, right here. So now I can raise up my torso and lift him and come back and catch his other leg with my left hand. So I've got him up in the air, stretching out, and I got both legs trapped. Now, he'll either grab around my waist and lock around there, or try to grab through the crotch and lock through there, or he'll grab one or both of my ankles, or a combination of that. Okay? Now, the way that we deal with this is pretty much the same, no matter what. And that is, whichever way I decide to take him right now, I would simply duck my head, let one hand loose, and pop his knee up over my head. So if I wanted to take him toward the camera, I would duck my head, pop his left knee, and the hand that's doing the popping, even if he holds on to me, the hand that's doing the popping will come over and grab his lower leg that I'm still going to hold on to. So go ahead and wrap around me there. And as I pop, I'm going to come over and still grab this. Still grab this right here. Now this was important because now that I've got this leg grabbed, no matter what he's doing with his arms, I can settle back on him here and start to get back points. The referee is going to give me some points here, I think. Takedown plus back points. So he's going to probably let go and start scrambling. And I would like to keep this leg right up in here, start to work into some kind of cradles or pull it up. And as he kicks out, I'm going to go into reverse bear hug right here and try to get a pin out of this. Okay? So this is called the alley-oop. One more time. We'll do it from the other side here, from a different viewpoint. Okay, I'm in here for a double. He stops me. I'm going to let go. I'm going to reach through, spear, and get that knee under me. As I come up, I catch him, and I can take him to whichever side I want to take him to. Say I want to take him over here this time. I duck my head, pop the knee, and as I do, reach for that leg. Hold it up in the air, and he's going to be all different ways, but if you got this leg, then you can bring this other arm around, start going around his head, around his back. Different possibilities here. Just lean back on him, so I'm just posting right now. And use your own leg too to help up in here. So it's a good situation right there. Okay. If he's got your ankles in his hands, hold on to that leg and use your other arm to pull through and cut him off and start face lifting or going around his head or sit back on him. And you'll be in good shape with that. Okay, that's the alley-oop. Now the elbow out. Okay, here we go. I'm in here, and he's sprawling pretty good on me. I can't get the alley-oop now. He's too far down. So I let loose with one hand again and bring my tricep back. Are they going to be able to see this good?
Yep.
Okay. Tricep goes back. My head, let's say I was under more, my head will come out when I do that. Tricep goes back, my head comes out, and as I do that, I'm going to try to step up a little bit. Now, I don't want to slide anywhere. I just want to spin. But before I spin, I'm going to try to arch up a little bit with my shoulders and torso, then spin and look right back over his shoulders toward his head. And with my hand that reaches around, I'm going to catch his ankle or his thigh or, at worst, his hip joint. But never reach around his waist right here. Now he's got control of my wrist. He starts getting me in trouble. Okay, this elbow out can be very useful. Okay, so now this is when he's not underhooking me. He's reaching for ankles or he's over my back or something. And all I'm going to do is step, elbow out. Now a lot of times I'll put my hand on the mat. Some guys catch that thigh all the time. But usually I just put my hand on the mat, arch, raise up a little bit, and then spin back. Then I might catch his thigh or something, but usually I'm reaching around and grabbing with that other hand. And it's a quick motion. It's going out and then twist back. Out, and as you go out, you raise, twist back. Right there, elbow out. Very nice motion if he's reaching over. Now if he's underhooking, then you got to go in to some kind of fireman's family stuff. Right there. Okay, now, this one's fun. Let's say that I've done a, which way would be the best way to show this?
Which one?
I'm going to show the inside out one. So lay down on your right side for me here. There's the camera, right?
Where's the behind? Yeah.
Right there?
Yep.
Okay. And what's going to happen here is I've taken him down with a double and my head's down. Excuse me. Now, a lot of times, okay, I'm going to show the tiptoes one first. I'll do a front bridge. I've got my arms around the back of his hamstrings. I do a front bridge. I pull his legs apart, and I tippy-toe in, and here we go. I pull it out, and we got that split crotch again. You've seen me do that already. But that was a front bridge, and walk into that. Now let's say I'm in here, and the guy's got my head wrapped up, and he won't let me come. Yeah, he might have anything. He might have that quarter Nelson. He might have his arm around my head. Your right arm could be around my head. Yeah, like that. You know, just not let me get out. See, really got me pressed down. And so what I'll do is this. I'll bridge again, and I'll step across his legs. And as I step across, I'll try to turn inside out. See what's happening here. Now, usually what happens is this guy will kick, and I'll turn right back, and now I got my takedown. And if I'd have kept my hands on his legs, I could have turned back and maybe jumped in the crotch here, too. But at least turning back toward the legs is the way you want to go. Now, I've had kids that have actually arched up and pinned somebody in that thing because they were all tied up so much. And the guy actually got his arms trapped in there. He couldn't bail out. And I have actually had kids pin people by pulling the legs up. But I'm figuring that we're going to just turn inside out. The guy's going to kick. We're going to turn right back and score right there. Try to catch him on his back. So that's inside out or upside down, whichever way you want to call that thing. Okay, and then the last thing that we use as secondary moves is one of the very best, and that's the hand plant series. And I'm going to go into that here next now. What's our time getting to be?
45.
All right, we're going to try to make some, get through the hand plant, and then we'll be starting the next tape with single leg sweeps and snatches and high crotches, and then we'll go into duck unders and arm drags and snap downs and on and on and on, and get all those done. Okay, so here we go for our hand plant. Let me do this without you for just a moment, Brendan.
Okay.
I want to try to show the footwork here. I've shot, let's say I've shot a double, and the guy starts sprawling me out. There's a point to where I'll lean forward, but then after that I don't want to get sprawled out anymore. So I let go of one of the hands, and I would let go of the hand that I can see, that's closest to my face over here. I always would keep my other hand on the leg. And a lot of coaches say, well, you got to reach and you got to get his ankle. Well, if the guy's really sprawled down, you can't get his ankle. It's too far back. But you can always do what I'm going to teach you to do. And where you catch the guy is high on the back of the thigh, real high, right up next to his buttock. That's where your hand's going to go. All four fingers go in there and they just hook right there, real high, and they stay there. They never work down. They always stay there until we finish the move. Now, you've got to get used to doing that. It's not around the knee. It's not around the lower leg. It's up high at the buttock. Okay, so that's your first hold with the hand that you can't see. Your second thing that you do, the hand that came off, you may only be able to post your forearm on the mat. If you're able to already put your hand on the mat, that's great. That gets your shoulders up more. But you've got to have your ear by his belly button, and your shoulder has to get right in and adjust up to his hip joint. It's got to be right by his hip joint. If there's a lot of space in there, then he can start putting quarter Nelsons on you and all kinds of other bad things. So you must, when you're in this bad position, you must post, you must step up, reach, and slide your shoulder up to his hip joint and your ear by his belly button. And then you tighten your neck muscles, pinch your shoulder, hold on with your hand. You got those three things around that thigh right there. This is your hand plant over here. Okay, now that's getting into that position right there. And we'll do that in a second with Brendan. Once you've gotten into that position, then depending on how high your shoulders are away from the mat, you will do certain movements here. If you're already on your hand, then you could start stepping and sliding your knee right at that thigh you've got a hold of. Right directly at that. And my step was what? My step was diagonally forward, slide. Okay, that's the way you could step and slide. But if you're real low down here, real low, he's laying on you, you're really down, your forearm is going to be on the mat right now. That's your post, that's your hand plant right now. You got this. You can't lift him up and step and slide directly at that leg. So your first one has to be to the side, but keep your head and shoulder in there. And this knee slides around to the side, and you come up to your hand right there. So you're sliding around the guy, not directly up into him at that point. So you're here, you step here, slide, come to your hand. Now your next step is more forward, and you can slide right toward his leg. Then you try to step over that leg. You try to hook it. If you miss it, fine. That was your step then. Then you slide right toward it. And notice what I'm doing. I'm stretching up every time now. I'm pinching, lifting, trying to hook. Every time I slide toward that leg, this hand can adjust. I lift and then hook. So it's slide, lift, hook. If I miss the hook, I just keep going after. Just keep going after. Because as I slide closer to him and lift higher, his leg's going to come closer. Right there. All right, let me just do that much. That's and he's either going to come up and keep trying to square off and have both knees off the mat and come up to his feet where you hook him, or you're going to hook him and he's going to be down on one knee. So we'll cover both of those things right now. What's our time, Brendan?
50.
All right, come on over here. He's going to sprawl, and I'm going to start way low. I'm going to start right down here. See, I'm in bad shape. So I'm going to catch him way high, right up by where his buttock starts, way high on the thigh. Got my fingers caught right in there. He's really pressing me down. And so I've got to step to the side with my right foot, slide that way, push up to my hand right there. And my shoulder and head are right where they should be. My ears by his belly button, my shoulders by his hip joint. Now he's going to keep trying to square off, and I'm going to step, slide right toward his leg that time, and try to hook over that thing right there. If I can get to this position, I've got 5 very good ways to get him down to his back, right from this position. If he didn't come up, if he fell over to that knee as I lifted and hooked, and he's got his knee on the mat, can the camera see that?
Yep. Let's run a little bit.
Yeah. If he's got his knee on the mat, here's what I do. I immediately take my hand-playing hand, block the knee, reach for the ankle, drive through. Now I got him in big trouble, and I start working up here, start working on his head and stuff. Okay? So I'm looking for those back points. So if he doesn't come up on both feet, I'm going to end it right there for him. Okay? If he gets cute, and as I come up and try to hook his leg, he lifts it, and once in a while you'll find somebody that'll do this. They'll lift that heel off the mat, so see I can't hook it. Then I just take my hand that was holding up here nice and high, and I reach down and catch that right there. Now I just keep walking around, chop his other knee, and bring him down, just as if he had had his knee on the mat right there. So he makes a mistake by doing that. Okay, once in a while, you'll find somebody that will do that. Most of the time, they won't. Okay, so here's the deal now. As we've gone around, I'm going to say that he has come up so that he's on both feet, and I've got the leg hooked. Stand up for me, Mr. Brendan. Here's what you have to practice now. The ear and the shoulder stay there, and the leg is hooked. Now the deal is that we're going to drive diagonally up through him so that I can look out over his other hip joint. And it's like a snake going up through a tree. We're going to put in my groins, I'm going to lock his leg, and I'm going to drive up through him. Also, this foot that's got him hooked here, I rock forward onto the ball of my foot and the toe of my foot, and I make a muscle here with my calf muscle, and it's going to go right in the back of his calf, and it's like a knife blade right there. It locks his leg right there. He feels it right now. And you just have to practice this a little bit. As you drive your groin up in there, that locks that thing right there. That's what's going to give you your opportunity to finish things. Now what I'd like to do, the first thing I always go for, is to drive diagonally up through him, lock the leg, and to either flank him through there, just pop that knee, or to just catch it with my hand. But I'm trying to put him down, right there. Now when he lands, I want to keep that leg hooked, press my groin down, block his other leg, split his crotch, and start catching over the shoulder and start scoring points and blah, blah, blah. This is good stuff right here. So I'm going to hold on to that leg. Okay, let's move back this way a little bit. Do it once more quick for him. Okay, I'm up in here. Once I hook this, I explode right up into him. See, I got him right down, flank, got him trapped right here. Then I start hooking, sliding up. Well, I got him in bad shape right here. Okay, that's our first option that we want to go to. How much time now?
54.
All right. See if we can get the other 4 right here. Here we go. Second one. And this is a hard one. This is probably the hardest, so I'm going to put it in right now. He's got his legs really apart, and I'm trying to flank him, and he's really splitting himself out, see? I can't get that flank. So here's what I do. I put my weight on my hand on the mat and my knee on the mat and my foot on the mat over here. I lean on it so that I can hook this heel and lift it up. Then I'm going to lean into him with my head and shoulder and make him fall back that way. When I lift this and drag it sideways, it splits him even more. His crotch gets caught right there. I hope you're good and loose now. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put my weight on what's on the mat, lift this, lean into him, drive, and he falls right back. And that's just called the split option. And it is a good one. But you got to play with it. It's the hardest one to get. I made a quarter turn here when I did that. Let's do it once more. This isn't a fun one to practice for the dummy either, so you got to be careful with it. I'm trying to split him, I lift, lean, boom. But I have to lift my heel and pull it out and then lean into him and do a quarter turn. Okay, that's the split option. So he's on his back again. Okay, this is a fun one. We'll turn this way now. A lot of times once I come up here, a guy will underhook me. I catch that, this goes right into the fireman's family. This is an outside fireman's or a dump. I trap that, wrap it around my head, wrap that arm around my neck, unhook my foot, just put it right next to his, and I can either spin and lift and dump him over my head, or I can slide and sit and go to my hip. And I like to do that one. Put him right on his back. Now right here, I do a front bridge, I hold onto his leg, I tippy-toe right inside his crotch again. And he's on his back in the split crotch again. I like that finish right there. Okay, so that was the dump. That's a great one because they'll underhook you. All right, now let's see. Camera's here.
Yep.
Now he's going to cross-face me. Okay? Well, I feel him coming. So what I do with this hand, I use my V and I block that wrist right there. See, my head's in here. He's got to really reach back for that. So I come in here and I block that right there. I jam it and I catch it. Just wrap my fingers around his thumb side blade with the arm to the crotch. Now I can play games with this. I can flank him, make him fall. I can fake like I want that. He'll step back and I duck out and grab his head and pull him around into a cradle. You all right?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah,
all right?
that one.
You forgot about that one, huh? Okay, let's turn this way now. I got this through here. I can fake up here like I want his head. He pulls that back, I flank him. You can see where he's going to go. Right to his back again. Got that leg hooked again. So that's a lot of fun, that one right there. So that's a standing ball and chain is what we call that option. How's our time?
58.
Okay. Now once in a while we'll get a situation where a guy's pretty advanced or sort of a screwy wrestler, and he'll take his far hand, come around and try to do a forced tap situation right there, and try to get my head down. See? So I'll just pinch in like that. I'll just pinch that in. He can be working it out. I'm just pinching it, throw my head through, throw this knee through, and rolling right on through to his back. Now look. I don't want to stop. Where's the... Okay, we're good. I don't want to stop. If I stop, now it's going to be a scramble. So I would have kept coming and gotten right over inside his crotch again, right there. So I split his crotch again. So that's just a roll through. Now, last option off of this. We've already done 5. Now, the one where he gets his hip turned. Now, remember, how much time we got now?
59.
Okay, he hasn't gotten his hip turned yet on me. See, I don't want him to. I want to stay on the corner. I want to stay at the angle. He can't get a whizzer. See, he's got his arm in there, but he can't make the whizzer work. Now, somehow we get turned. Now he can make his whizzer work. So he starts whizzering me. I'm going to keep my hand right up in there high, and I'm going to hook that leg, and I'm going to post out and start dragging. I'm going to lift my heel, drag his knee back as far as I can. And when that knee hits, I turn palm up and throw my limp arm. Right there. Throw my shoulder, throw my head and shoulders, and let my arm come out like a limp rag. Okay? Do it once more. He's up in here. Somehow he gets turned. I got that leg hooked. He starts to wail on me with that thing. I lift the heel, drag it back. As soon as his knee hits, palm up, limp arm. Right there. Don't limp arm before the knee hits. Don't limp arm before you drag the leg up. Now, this can also be used down on the mat. This is cool. I'm down here, got his leg, we're down here. I'm walking around, I get a hook right now. Now, I'd like to, block him off, but he's got his leg way out. So, here I go, I lift the heel, drag him, throw it. You can get all kinds of takedowns off of this drag and limp arms. But make sure you lift the heel, drag his knee, drag his leg, then throw. Then you got space. Okay, how's your time?
2 hours.
All right, now, that's 2 hours, and we've gotten through a lot of stuff. A lot of it none of it needs to be repeated. You'll see those tie-ups and setups used in all kinds of other takedowns now in this second 2 hours. So again, Brendan, appreciate your good work here.
Thank you.
And we'll get another 2 hours done, and we'll have it all in the can here for everybody. So go ahead and shut it off there. Thank you.